Hello folks, my name's Hypocriside and welcome to yet another episode of Samara in Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order mod. So, in the previous episode we've excised the rot, and let's go with beginning the Unification. This video is actually recorded just after the previous one, so if you have decided upon if I should read the stuff or leave it for you to read, just don't be mad. I just want to give you stuff to watch while I do other things, so you know. So let's begin the Unification. So in previous episodes, in the previous episode, I have found out that I can actually smuggle much more stuff than I thought I could, and that thing of corruption could actually be investigated. So let's find something nice. Maybe food for the civilians. It will increase civilian morale by a large amount, and oh no, maybe the military morale, because there is none actually. So let's export food. Oh, it's actually already been upped. So I need the anti-tank equipment, but I have no idea if I can smuggle it. Oh, I can. Oh yeah, I can. So let's go with this, and maybe let's improve oversight, just to be sure. And I've forgotten about loot. So maybe let's spend it on... Can I spend it on research facilities? Yes, I can. So let's spend it on it. And let's go with the focus. Maybe, well, it's the only focus that I can choose. Tactful Expansion. Our wars of liberation must be carefully considered. The ROA stands alone and is widely detested in the region. By beginning with weaker foes, we can liberate a sizable amount of land before striking at the Tsar in Vyatka and the communists in Arkhangelsk. We must move at a good pace, without rushing too much. Yeah, well, Samara is actually pretty overpowered. They have planes, so you know. It's raid o'clock again, and actually the morale stuff is... can be seen here in the spirits. I think it diminished the maluses on war support and division recovery rate. Okay, so the focus is completed. Report on militia activity. Deputy Chairman Zykov has requested you report on militia activities throughout our territory. Local militias have always been a fact of life in the Russian anarchy. Even with a professional army such as the ROA, we cannot cover every kilometer of our territory. As a result, local villages often organize to defend and protect their community. For your instructions, we have sought increased partnership with these militias as a counterbalance to the ROA. Our rivals within the officers' committee still pose the threat of a military coup against our democratic efforts. As such, it is useful to possess our own military deterrent. Of course, the balance must not be allowed to swing the other way. Local militias might feel emboldened to resist our central government. As such, there is a permanent effort to assess the loyalty of each militia and placing men of our democratic faction as officers in as many militia as we can. It would certainly be a tragedy if we had to field loyal militias against rogue military elements, or vice versa. Yet we must be prepared for any eventuality if our project is to succeed. Excellent report, report officer. So now, the Russians of Cheboksary. Just across our border, in the land of the Tatars, there exists the city of Cheboksary. In this city, or it's Cheboksary? I think it's Cheboksary. In this city, there live thousands of Russians, governed by a people who are not their own. Among our populace, there is much sympathy for this minority. Sympathy that can, with a few stories of oppression and tragedy, be turned into support for a military intervention. It is most unfortunate that the first step on the road to a reunified Russia must involve the use of such underhanded and harsh methods. But as the Tatars, yeah, well, whatever. I think it's Tatars. Or maybe Tatars, because Tatars is like tater tots. Like taters, the potatoes, you know. So let's Tatars. Okay, so Tatars. Still see us as fascist stooges, they would never consent to a peaceful union. Even so, we must never lose sight of our ideals. And we can rest assured that this being done in the name of the future of Russia. How about, the raid. So it's raid o'clock. And they have paid the tribute. That's nice. Alright, so the focus is now completed. So let's trash the Tatars. Our propaganda efforts have worked, perhaps too well, but that's an issue for another time. On the narrow border with Tatarstan stand our divisions, poised to strike and begin the march to Cheboksary. The men are eager and in high spirits, with some of the particularly enthusiastic among them stockpiling massive amounts of Vyatka to hand out to their fellow Russians as soon as the city is liberated. All of this bodes well for a quick and efficient end to the war, before too much blood is shed and before the anger we have fostered against our enemies grows into outright hatred. All that's still needed is Zykov's word, and once it is given, the offensive and the beginning of unification of Russia will commence. It's 14 days. I think that they won't muster enough men. Or maybe they will. Or maybe let's have this guy here still. Alright, so the war has begun. And please hold this guy here. And now go for Kazan. Oh, there was a guy here. Now finish the autosave. Oh, I forgot that I have Air Force. Fuck. Transvolga. Alright, so let's have them here. Close this guy off. Yes, that's how we want it. Armor does not concern me. And now let's go for Novocheboksarsk and for Cheboksary. Yoshkar Ola? Oh, okay. They will capitulate here. Sweet. Now stop. We have some missing equipment. That's nothing that we should worry about because it's just one plane. So, let's go with Tatar rights. Following our conquest, the Tatars have found their position reversed. They are now a minority in a nation primarily made up of Russians. Currently, the attitudes towards them in Samara are merely ambivalent, but with the stories, real or imagined, of Cheboksary still fresh in the minds of our people, this could quickly take a turn for the worse. In order both to rectify this situation and stay true to the ideals of his democratic Russia, Zykov has therefore proposed that the rights of the Tatars be codified into law. They are now our people just as much as any Russian, and we have an obligation to treat them just as well. Once these rights are enshrined on paper, the woes of the past war will hopefully be forgotten, and the Slav and the Tatar will be able to walk hand in hand towards a better future. That's kinda nice. Oh well. We have actually some loot to spend, so let's maybe build some new schools just to get that primary schooling up and running in maybe, I don't know, 10 years. So yeah, we have the Tatar rights, and maybe let's go with Tatar horsemen. The Tatars that now reside in our territory are among the finest horsemen in Russia, and would be a mistake not to make use of them. The formation and integration of Tatar cavalry into our divisions would provide our army with much needed mobility without requiring even an ounce of petrol. Such a major reformation of our order of battle will take time, however, and some Tatars may prove reluctant to join the very same military they were only just recently fighting, but having such renowned cavalrymen numbering among our ranks will surely prove beneficial for any future campaigns we may be forced to undertake. In addition, the sense of unity that these efforts would foster among the common soldiery would go a long way towards progressing our efforts to permanently integrate Tatarstan. So we have actually, I don't use any cavalry. Cavalry. I have no idea. But reconnaissance plus 10%, it's actually pretty nice. You know, a fun fact. While playing as Samara, we have 150 days to integrate stuff. But when I have played as the Brotherhood, there were 270 days to integrate a state. So that says a lot of our modern society, you know. Okay, so now we have our Tatar horsemen, and let's go with Tatar bravery. The soldiers of Tatarstan fought well in the war, but in the end our forces were victorious. Now, before we march any further, we must work on integrating our new population into the government of Samara. While many former top-level officials will have to be gotten rid of one way or another, to ease the transition and reduce discontent, we will keep many of the pre-existing apparatuses of the old regime in place, at least for the time being. This will carry with it the added benefit of reducing the amount of resources we must dedicate to the new territories, allowing our focus to be shifted to more pressing matters. Finally, Zykov himself has proposed a campaign to educate our people in Tatar culture, with the hope of creating a sense of understanding between our two ethnic groups following the recent conflict. Nice. Alrighty then. Let's go with sabotage their tanks. The next logical target for our forces is the warlord state of Gorky, situated in our northwestern frontier and ruled by Nikolai Everin with an iron fist. His gang of bandits is well known throughout the region for its fleets of tanks that allow him to launch raids almost whomever he feels like with virtual impunity. But with over-reliance comes weakness. If we can train teams of saboteurs to infiltrate the city and its factories, they can get to work chipping away at our next foe's one and only advantage. Broken carburetors, diluted fuel, mysterious ammunition explosions in the dead of night, anything that can be done to deprive Gorky of its precious tanks. This campaign of subterfuge will not be an easy or quick, but once it is done, the only task that will remain will be to clean up the memories of stragglers. Gains sabotage. Oh, that's sweet. For 95 days. So how much it is to... Oh, it's 14, so maybe let's let's address the situation by putting our men here. And you too. I don't care if you are not trained enough. You will be needed. You know what? I have a question, actually. Why hasn't the Austrian painter died yet? Because it's 1964. Like, shouldn't he be dead already? Because I think that all of those states that had their focus trees reliant on the end of the terror bombing haven't done anything. Like the Brotherhood and Vyatka has still the puppets. I have no idea what's going on. Alright, so their tanks have been sabotaged. So now let's knock their door. The time has come to end Evelyn's tyranny and advance one step closer to the unification of Russia. Gorky's tank force have been effectively neutralized, and our soldiers are sufficiently equipped to deal with whatever is left over. Many of them are yearning for revenge. Memories of when great armored beasts roamed the countryside of Samara, terrorizing the people and making off with their possessions, still fresh in their minds. Now the beasts are dead, poisoned by our brave saboteurs, and our commanders are predicting an easy victory against a demoralized enemy, and at a complete loss for what to do with its primary weapon nullified. One general has even joked that there will be no resistance whatsoever, as the enemy will be too busy scratching their heads and wondering why their tanks refuse to move. That's one is actually good. So let's go. How about... God damn. Just let's go there to Gorky and let's get this whole... I'm in awe. Really. This is so overpowered. Like, fuck. Krasnoye Sormovo factory captured. We have captured the Gorky tank factory, the largest producer of armored vehicles in West Russia. This factory was a vital part of Soviet industrial production and saw heavy usage during the West Russian War. In the aftermath of the WRRF's collapse, it fell into the hands of Nikolai Avelin and his divisions of bandits, who used the factory to pump out tanks for the raids on Reichskommissariat Moscovian. An ignoble fate for such an important piece of military infrastructure. Tanks are rare among the warlords of Russia, making anyone who can produce them a force to be reckoned with, and making the factory a highly sought after prize. Now that it belongs to us, we can utilize Gorky's tank factory for a higher purpose than stealing scraps from the Germans. Regaining the capacity to produce tanks will be another step towards achieving the military capabilities of a full-fledged nation, and another step towards declaring a final victory in West Russia. The power of modern warfare unleashed. That's nice. Committee for the Liberation of the Peoples of Russia has defeated the Gorky Tank Brigade in a war. The war machines lie broken and scattered. All right. So now, the next one will be Vyatka, but let's stabilize the region, so to speak, so to say. Following the capitulation of Avelin forces, the city of Gorky has fallen into our hands largely intact, and its many industrial plants with it. Chief among these is the Krasnoye Sormovo factory, in near constant use since the Second World War, producing the venerable T-34. If we can put the factory back into operation, our forces would be bolstered by tanks, an advantage unmatched in this part of Russia, as attested to by the fact that the warlord who previously occupied this land was able to survive for so long. We will not make the same mistake as Vyatka, however. Our new armored forces will be integrated alongside the infantry and cavalry in a sensible manner, and new doctrines will be developed dictating their use. We are not a patchwork collection of bandits. Ours is the army that is paving the road to a new Russia. And now that we have an industrial base, the dream doesn't seem so distant anymore. Well, it seems that Nowa Polska will be gangbanged soon by Koszketał. Well, that's sad. Alright, so maybe let's rally the populace. The people of Gorky have been liberated from the tyranny of their bandit overlords, but our work is still far from done. Governmental institutions are practically non-existent within the city, and the people lack even the most basic social services. We must therefore work hard to bring Gorky up to the standards of our own lands, demonstrating to the populace that we are on their side. So far, we have begun distributing a portion of the spoils obtained from raids that the bandits had so selfishly hoarded for themselves, the rest to be returned to their rightful owners. But this is only a temporary measure. To achieve lasting stability, it will be necessary to introduce the gifts of democracy to the city and villages that surround it, so to say nothing of instructing the people in its benefits. Of course, we will still keep a few guiding hands in place, but these will be withdrawn over time, upon which the people of Gorky will finally be able to experience the fruits of their own labor. This will slightly decrease scoring time, that's good, and this will increase civilian morale. Alright, so we've rallied the populace, and before I go further into the focuses, I think that the painter is actually immortal in this playthrough, because at this point I think that there would be a fight between the Aryans and Belezniki or Bashkiria. And there is actually no fighting besides, Sverdlovsk, Tyumen, and the Siberia, the Far East, I mean. So I think that this will be actually an easier playthrough. Alright, so let's secure their stockpiles. And unto the victor the spoils, and all adage of war. However, in this case, this is not just us who are the victors, but all the many peoples of Russia, of which those of the former steel warlords of Gorky have now joined us. With these people, and soon with all of a new free Russia, we shall share these spoils. What military equipment we find, from ammunition to the great resource of Gorky, that being the tank, we shall make use of it in our own armed forces. What sympathetic or even possibly loyal men that we have captured in the integration of Gorky will be assimilated into our own forces and shall be a shining example of our dream of a united and free Russia, ruled not by warlordism and regionalism, but a shared national identity and love for one's neighbor. Advance to the future. Alright, so maybe we'll be able to create a new template, because we don't have any Panzer templates, so I think that it's a good idea to start doing something about that. Alright, so I have actually made a Panzer division. It is actually an AFV division, because I think that Vyatka has no tanks on their own. So let's try and train them. Actually, we have no anti-tank equipment, but I think that we'll be able to muster at least 2 divisions after the focus will finish. Alright, so stockpiles secured, and now let's go with the false Tsar. It has become apparent to us that to our east lies a state run by another petty warlord, claiming rule of all Russia. What sets this one apart is their claim. The Grand Duke Vladimir claims himself to be heir to the Tsar's throne, and under God's authority believes it should be him ruling the ruins of Russia. This is nothing but a foolish thinking and the result of depravity and mental erosion. In simple words, the man is demonstrably insane and should be considered no less. It is our job, as future stewards of a free Russia, to end this and reinstate freedom and democracy in a state where it no longer existed in any form. We believe that we can count on the support of the people of Vyatka, as despite what tacit support they may show for this false monarch, the power and allure of a true people's democracy will always outshine that of an undemocratic dictatorship. Yeah, well, we have an authoritarian democracy, but yeah, well, you know. That's what I was talking about. I think that the West Russian Revolutionary Front won't be able to go down this focus tree because the terror bombings will never end. And the anarchy of the Western Africa will also never end. That's not nice. But let's go with the focus tree. Land and freedom. From our understanding, Vyatka has retrogressed from Soviet styles of communal ownership back to semi-feudalism, as practiced under the old Tsar. Of all the causes that rallied the people of Russia to rebellion, there was none so potent and as powerful as the cry for people's ownership of land. It is this sentiment that we will use to our advantage in the many leaflets, posters and secret speeches that our infiltrators will place throughout Vyatka, reminding them of the old leftist cry: peace, land, bread. If the land isn't controlled by the people, Vyatka fails even more on the accounts of freedom. There exists practically no freedom in the state of Vyatka, with all orders coming down from the Tsar Vladimir. The people of Vyatka deserve far better. They deserve the liberty that all of Russia deserves, and we are determined to deliver it to them at the end of a gun barrel. And this one will also decrease scoring time, so we have that going for us. Whoops. I guess that Poland will be lost once more. And maybe let's spend the loot on new agricultural methods, because this will be invaluable. Alright, so land and freedom is finished, so let's go with Remember February. And it will declare war on them, and I don't have the divisions yet. You know what? Maybe let's game end one of them, and we will have the equipment that we need, I think. Almost. And we have to, seal the gap. Maybe we can smuggle some equipment? No, only infantry and support and motorized. But no anti-tank. God damn. Alright, so let's go with Remember February, and maybe I'll deploy the tanks earlier. In February of 1917. The people of what was then the Russian Empire stood up for themselves and said firmly that enough was enough, that authoritarian rule by a monarch as cold and unfeeling as Tsar Nicholas would not continue, as his mandate from the people had long since expired, and that his cruel imperialist wars throughout Europe that sent so many Russian boys to their deaths had to end as well. Today we fight for the same thing, and for that reason we all must remember February and the brave men and women who lost their lives in Petrograd fighting for it. We must now take this legacy and use this spirit to take down the corrupt regime sitting in Vyatka calling themselves the emperors and princes of Russia. We shall initiate an all-out offensive, taking care to keep our troops as safe as possible to strike deep into Vyatka. We are sure that as soon as we take the capital and capture Vladimir, the entire system will collapse. So actually we have only 4 days. So let's get them here and up and running maybe. Let's deploy an Arsk and let's get them a tank general. There is no... Okay, so we don't have a tank general. So let's have... Oh no, so maybe let's get them Vasily Malishkin. Because he has actually some decent attack. I think that will be enough. Oh. That happened way too quickly. So... maybe... you will go to Izhevsk and you will help them with pushing into Vyatka. And you will go here. Good. Or maybe... yeah, well, the government, whatever. Let's get them here. They'll be closer, I think. Now we're cooking. And the Vyatka is ours, so now Ust-Cheptsa. And maybe we'll be able to encircle them. Yep. And the encirclement is almost closed. Well, that wasn't actually as humane as possible, but we've got the job done. So maybe let's go to Izhevsk. I think that it will be the end. Let's stop the offensive. And to Izhevsk they go. Izhevsk mechanical plant captured. After conquering the city of Izhevsk, we have secured our control over the Izhevsk mechanical plant, the single greatest center of arms production in West Russia. Izhevsk has long been used to pump out enormous quantities of pistols, rifles, and other small arms. After the collapse of the West Russian Revolutionary Front, Izhevsk and its factory became the property of Vladimir Romanov, the purported successor to Russia's late Tsar, who used it to build up his reactionary forces in a play for regional domination. Now that the plant is solidly ours, we can use it for the same purpose. In the Great Patriotic War and West Russian War, it was one of the primary producers of weapons for a huge number of soldiers. We can ensure that our armies are armed with new, modern firearms, while our opponents struggle to assemble outdated arsenals. Drown them in a wave of lead. That's very nice. So how far they are from capitulation? Not that far. let's go to Igra and Glazov and maybe Yelabuga. And okay, so here's the... Oh, alright. So they are finished off. And maybe I think that this should be the end of this episode. I hope that you've liked it. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, and to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of Hearts of Iron TNO Samara. So, see ya!